Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as yours, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode is of course one of those visual ones again, and as you can guess by both the title and what's on the tabs, you'll know what's going on in this one. But let's pretend that you somehow still don't know what's going on. With that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First, we're going to be talking about some of the infrastructure and, all those stuff. First, we're going to start with something that's slightly positive and just give some praise where it's kind of due. Peter DeFazio. Now, Peter DeFazio is a long-standing member of the House of Representatives. He's, I think of all of the people that I like/endorse, he's the one who's been in the House the longest, I think. Maybe Bernie's been there longer, just because you have to add his Senate tenure and his House tenure, but I don't think so. I think maybe this guy entered in the late 80s or early 90s, before Bernie. But basically, Peter DeFazio has been a long-standing progressive, and one of his big things is transportation and, climate change. And he is very disappointed in certain aspects of the infrastructure plan. Especially considering the infrastructure plan's basically been negotiated without House input. And he called the bill crap and blamed Rob Portman, Suzanne Collins, and Kyrsten Sinema, and called them the three Republicans crafting the Senate deal. I could give a damn about the White House, where an independent branch of government, DeFazio said in a brief interview afterwards, they cut this deal, I didn't sign off on it. And what makes it interesting is that he's actually sort of, he's a weird kind of representative. He's in one of those, very deep, flippable seats, but he's not really what you would think. You see, he is a progressive in a swing seat and has basically held that swing seat for his entire tenure. And, I don't even think it's, small margins either. I think he wins by a large margin in a lot of his races. And when I say large margin, I mean decent margins, 8, not 8, 9 or 10, which is close, I guess, but not close enough to indicate that he's in any trouble. But if it happens that there is trouble, we gotta give some support to DeFazio. Speaking of certain negotiations, Sinema says she opposes the 3.5 price tag for spending bill. Senator Kyrsten Sinema said Wednesday that she does not support the $3.5 trillion price tag for a sweeping spending package at the center of President Biden's legislative agenda. Sinema, in a statement first reported on by the Arizona Republic, said she would vote to start debate on the budget resolution, which lays the groundwork for the Democratic-only spending package, but wants changes, including the cost of the legislation. I have made clear that while I support the beginning of this process, I do not support a bill that costs $3.5 trillion. And in the coming months, I will work in good faith to develop this legislation with my colleagues and the administration to strengthen Arizona's economy and help Arizonans' everyday families get ahead. To pass the budget resolution and the subsequent $3.5 trillion bill, all 57 Senate Democrats need to support the measure. Now, I don't remember how many do support it, but basically, they've all made it pretty. This is where a lot of the House Democrats are basically putting their foot on the ground. Basically, they're saying there's going to be a $1.2 trillion bipartisan plan, which is what I talked about previously, but the bipartisan plan is basically being spearheaded by Sinema, and this current $3.5 trillion other plan is set to be this one is supposed to be done through reconciliation, whereas the other one is bipartisan. And a lot of Senate and House Democrats like AOC, Mona Jones, Jamal Bowman, I think even Bernie, basically state, and even Pelosi has even stated this, that they're not going to do this unless they do this. And, like, if they don't do either, then, like, then they're just not going to support it. Now, of course, I don't know if Pelosi's going to follow through with it, but, I mean, it's a good indication that, like, because this is one thing that Kyrsten Sinema is trying to, like, spearhead very hard. And as we've just stated, there's a lot of Democrats, remember, I just mentioned Peter DeFazio, who openly oppose this. But now, it seems like their hands are going to be tied, or we'll have to wait and see who has more cojones. But anyways, now the next story is somewhat interesting. You see, this is Jake Ellzey. Jake Ellzey beat a Trump-backed not incumbent, but like a Trump-backed candidate in Texas. Now this is weird because, like, it's very interesting because a lot of people are saying that this might have actually been Democrats because, you know, a lot of Democrats may have supported Jake in the runoff. And this election was sort of seen as like a proxy. Like, this election will push, like, this will show what the GOP will be in the future. If Susan Wright won, then it would show that Trump still has a stranglehold within the party. If Jake won, then that would mean that there is strong anti-Trump sentiment within the Republican Party, and that this may be a good indication that the GOP might not exactly be following the path of Trump for very long. Now, this is going to be interesting, but I don't necessarily have my hopes up for it, because here's the thing most people don't realize. Well, I mean, people realize it, but they also don't. The last time we got a person who was not the Trump-picked candidate for an election, we got Madison Cawthorn. This is literally almost beat for beat Madison Cawthorn's story, and as we know now, Madison Cawthorn basically became the fiercest Trump, proponent. Like even to a degree that they thought that the Trump-backed candidate was the never Trumper. So maybe it was just the people in the area didn't necessarily want a woman as the House member. We don't know. But again, we'll have to wait and see how Jake pans out. But I don't necessarily believe that Jake is a good person either way. He's a Republican. What do you expect? Okay, so the next story comes from Nicaragua. Now, in Nicaragua, they have finally chosen an opposition candidate to go against Ortega. And unfortunately, it stinks. The Citizens Alliance for Liberty, it's a political party that's basically a right-wing opposition to Daniel Ortega. And, it is very interesting. They're backing a person by the name of where's he again? Oscar Solbalvado. He's 68 years old, and his running mate is Bernice Quezada, who is the Miss Nicaragua of 2017. Now, the thing about Oscar is he was actually a former commander of the Contras, and his commanding name was Comandante Ruben. And it is very sad for a number of reasons. For one, I kind of wanted George Enriquez to be the opponent, because George Enriquez and Yatma are actually, good people. Or at the very least, I don't know. What is Menedano? Menedano doesn't seem to be that bad either. like I said, Meridano and Enriquez were basically the two people that I thought were the actual good opposition candidates. Because, like, let me look back at it. Enriquez, he talks about, like, being pro-LGBTQ and, like, trying to do autonomy for various regions, fighting education decentralization, and his vision for, let's just candidate whatever. But basically, I thought he, from the way he looked, I thought he was going to be a very interesting candidate, but it turns out he ain't going to be the candidate, so there's really no point in talking about it further. So, yeah, it's not like Nicaragua's going to be getting a good person, even if they do nominate the, like, if they do decide to go against Ortega. The next story is a very interesting story. Green Party near a financial tipping point, council warned in recorded meeting. Burdened with the high staff costs and legal fees from bitter infighting, the federal Green Party is approaching a financial tipping point where it won't be able to run an election campaign with any effectiveness, according to the party's executive director. The harrowing picture of a party in financial freefall was delivered Thursday night to members of the Greens' top governing party, the Federal Council. Interim Executive Director Dane Taylor and Douglas Tingey, the president of the Green Party of Canada Fund, spell out how the organization's expenses are dangerously outpacing the money it makes through political donations. We don't have a great deal of time to stop the bleeding before we get to a point where the situation is not recoverable. There's a tipping point of which there's an effectiveness at all conduct in any type of campaign, and I would suggest we're very close to that tipping point. Now, this is very disappointing, obviously, because the Canadian Green Party was seen as rising before Annamie Paul entered the scene. Literally, the Green Party was finally going places. They elected 3 MPs. They were finally pushing people into becoming members of the Green Party, and things were going incredibly well for them. But unfortunately, things did not pan out because Annamie Paul was chosen to be the leader of the Green Party and not someone else who would actually have been a better choice. You know, like the 2 other Green MPs, Jenica Atwin and Paul Manley, or Dimitri Lascaris. Literally anybody would have been a better choice, but instead they chose Annamie Paul, who was literally the probably furthest right person they could have picked. And now they're at a tipping point where they are going to not be able to run an effective campaign, and they lost one of the MPs that they gained. So, yeah, Canadian Greens ain't going so well. Now, the next story, we're going to be talking about something that people seem to be going crazy about, but also doesn't really deserve to be going crazy about. Pro-Sanders group rebranding into Pragmatic Progressives. Now, I've been seeing some people talk about this, but this is, well, when we get to it, you'll understand why this is dumb. So, basically, the, AP is saying, stinging from the disappointment of Bernie Sanders' loss in 2016, supporters pumped millions into the powerful advocacy group OurRevolution to keep the progressives' fight alive and prepare for another swing at the White House. Then in 2020, he lost again, and basically, they're saying this is, there's no quote that I think, basically, the one thing they said is that this guy, this one member of the Bernie camp, is calling themselves pragmatic progressives. But listen to this. They're saying that, basically, the only thing they're saying is that rather than insisting on Medicare for all or the Green New Deal, our revolution is focused on the modest alternatives endorsed by President Joe Biden. Those include expanding eligibility for the existing Medicare program and curtailing federal subsidies for fossil fuel companies. The group says it wants to make sure Biden keeps his promises on those and other top issues. And here's the quote that they're saying is, like the defeat. Coming out of Bernie's 2016 campaign, in some ways the organization was probably more of a bridge organization between two electoral cycles. What we're trying to build is something that is longer term, part of the overall ecosystem of the progressive movement. I think we are rooted in a bold progressive vision, but we are also pragmatic progressives. Now, this is very, like, many people are saying, like, oh, this is them shifting away from being, like, like, they're actually being pushed away. Like, they're pushing away progressivism and in favor of, like, trying to be, like, we're good, like, we're pragmatic. And they're basically saying that they're trying to shift away from the progressive vision. They're not. This is very, very misleading. They're saying that they are pragmatic. They are pragmatic and they are trying to push for what can be done under the Biden administration. But they're still, like, they say, the quote that supposedly is, like, bad shows right here, we are rooted in a bold progressive vision, but we're also pragmatic. You know, like Bernie was. He would campaign, like, he campaigns as a progressive, and he does all this progressive stuff, and he has a bold vision, but he's also pragmatic. Like, if he wasn't pragmatic, he would have voted for Howie Hawkins like I did. If he wasn't pragmatic, he wouldn't be trying to get people to run as Democrats or support Democrats. But he does that because he's pragmatic. This is clearly him. He's being pragmatic. Like, and let's be honest, that's not a bad thing as long as you're still pushing for the things that you want. Like, if you're still pushing, like, they're still pushing. Like, AOC is still pushing for Medicare for all. Nina Turner is still pushing for Medicare for all. All these people are still pushing, but they also understand that in the short term, they can't get that. They can't get Medicare for all tonight. If they could, they would. But they know, like, it's like that Nina Turner ad. There's literally a Nina Turner ad that explains it all. Like, it was that ad, or I think she talks about her mother. But basically, it's like, she outlines her philosophical stance, believing healthcare is a human right. She outlines her broad policy plan to get a Medicare for all type system. And then she outlines in the short term that she'll fight to protect the healthcare that people currently have. And that's basically what OurRevolution is doing. In the long term, they still want Medicare for all. But they're also fixing and trying to be more pragmatic with the situation that they have. And all this hate is coming from people who, like, it's really weird. I'm literally being consistent, but other people aren't. Like, the same thing happened because Crystal Ball interviewed Bernie Sanders, and they were, like, saying, oh, this interview shows him being, like, he's a sheepdog for the Democrats, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys, you do understand I'm holding the position that you should be holding. These people are literally like, oh, why doesn't Bernie get Medicare for all for us today? But it's like, guys, you were like, Bernie, like, Biden is anti-Medicare for all. You guys were openly saying, like, this is why you're not voting for him, because he's not for Medicare for all. And now you're crying because in the Biden administration, you're not getting Medicare for all? You're crying because Joe Biden said that you said, like, oh, Joe Biden won't even do the public option. And now you're mad that he actually won't do it? You're actually mad at this? Guys, I knew that he was going to do this, which is why I didn't vote for him. But and this is the reason you didn't vote for him either. But you're still going to whine and complain, like, why doesn't he do this? It's like, guys, you already knew that Biden wasn't going to do this, so why are you complaining about it? That's just, you just want to find a way to get mad. And it's really dumb. It's basically like, it's like, you guys want to really throw Bernie and Our Revolution under the bus because of this? A pro-Sanders group, not even the group, a guy saying that they're pragmatic? And that's what the AP and all these other mainstream media sources do. They played this narrative like AOC is shifting with Bernie on how to lead the left because she didn't endorse every single Justice Democrat or like anti-incumbent person in the world. But it's like, that's not at all what happened. It's just so dumb. Like, these guys, like, the mainstream media is playing like a fiddle, and you know it. But you're just gonna go along with it, and then you're gonna claim I'm the sheepdog because I'm standing up for Bernie, the guy who literally, if he didn't run for president in the first place, you wouldn't even be who you are. Literally, none of these people have ever been politically active before Bernie Sanders was running in 2016. And now you're gonna claim, oh, we're actually cooler than Bernie, and we're actually going to be, and like, Bernie's irrelevant anymore. And it's like, guys, shut up. Bernie, he's working with what he can. The Biden administration. And you're not going to get all the things you want. Because it's the Biden administration. Accept it. I accepted it. I accepted defeat when Bernie dropped out. I accepted defeat. I knew I wasn't going to get what I was going to get. Like, I was going to get what I was going to get, but I wasn't going to get what I wanted. And you guys, you're still crying about what you want when you should have figured out that you're not going to get it. But now anyways, let's move on to the main topic of this video. We're going to be retaking a political quiz that I haven't taken in a long time. The Politiscales Test. See? It's literally been a long time. Episode 11 since I did that. You can see my old crappy background. But I'm not even sure if it's the same Politiscales quiz, because I think the website went down. Let me check. How many questions does it have? 117. So I figured out. The Politiscales Test is basically similar to the 8 values test, and it gives you certain scales based on certain things. Is this the original Politiscales Test? Yeah, you see, this is what happens when you try to take the original Politiscales Test. And this is a slightly modified version. Now, let me see. What are the things? Oh, it doesn't show the things yet. You see, here's how it goes. It's basically like the 8 values test, and we'll see how it does. And I think it gives you a flag, but since this is the fake one, I don't know if that's going to happen in this one. But we'll have to wait and see and figure it out. The question assumes that you are a citizen of a multi-party system and a market economy. Alright, fair enough. You can always avoid answering a question, but if you do not understand the meaning of one of them, try to invert its meaning for a better understanding of what is implied. Alright. I don't know what that means, but I'll try. This test is to represent a wider set of ideas as possible and contains some phrases that can be shocking, noticeably concerning racism and homosexuality. Alright, let's go. Okay, so this one has one less. Conditions of life in jail should be greatly improved. 100%, 100%. Like 100%. That is just not negotiable. The language is identified by its users, not by scholars. Yeah, I'm gonna go with somewhat agree. No, you know what? I'm gonna go with absolutely. Nah. Yeah, you see, this is where it's gonna get some bad, because I guess I'm gonna put somewhat agree, because it's like, yeah, the scholars technically know like all the stuff about the language, but it's like the people who speak it obviously have, I guess, technically a better understanding of it. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, not wait and see. Why did I say that? I just say things because I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, prisons should no longer exist. Now that's an interesting question. Because on one hand, I kind of get like the broader philosophical sense. Like, you know, not have a punitive society. But on the other hand, practically it makes sense to have prisons. So I'm going to put somewhat agree, but under the caveat that I think they should be massively reformed. You know, for one hand, no private prisons. try to reform the prison system so that, it's not based on systemic racism. But, it really would be, for the most egregious society's members, patents should not exist. I'm going to put slightly agree on that, yeah. Because, on one end, if I remember correctly, patents, if you patent something, it means you have, the exclusive right to it. And it can even go for something like drugs. But, and that's a really bad thing, because if you own a patent on a drug, then that means there are a lot of people who probably won't be able to have it. There was a guy, the fucking stupid idiot the guy, not Michael Cernovich, you know who I'm talking about. The guy who was, who had, those drugs, and then he, it was, the pill was, $1, and then he raised it to, $1,000 in one night. Martin Shkreli, that's what his name is. Multiculturalism is a threat to our society. Nope. The influence of religion should decrease. Yeah, both of those things are pretty sound. Traditions should be questioned. Yeah, absolutely. All traditions should be questioned. Maximum allowed hours in the legal work week should be increased. This one is going to probably be the first neutral one, because I see a lot more people talking about lessening work hours. People talking about the 4-hour work week, not the 4-hour work week. Yes, the 4-hour work week. No, the 4-day work week. I don't know. I'm confused. Our work week is confusing anyway, so let's do that. Revolutions will always end up in a bad way. I'm going to say disagree, and I'm going to list a couple of countries that might explain why I disagree, like Cuba and, to a degree, the United States, France. France kind of went crazy for a little bit. The Russian Revolution. Okay, well, actually, I'm listing a lot of things that might not make it sound so good, except for Cuba, but the Mexican Revolution was good. So yeah, revolutions can be good, but it depends on what the revolution does. We need to establish a monarchy. No monarchies. Monarchies, bad. All the monarchies should be gone. Borders should eventually be abolished. This is like a way far left pipe dream. Honestly, I don't really care much about this issue, so I'm going to put neutral or hesitant. Transforming ecosystems durably to increase the quality of life for human beings is legitimate. See, I know what this is kind of talking about, but, I guess there's, a degree on how far it can go, because, we have the concrete jungles that basically ruin an entire ecosystem. So I'm going to put neutral or hesitant, because it's I guess to a degree I would understand, trying to make humanity's life a little better, but there's also a limit. It is necessary to massively invest in research to improve productivity. It is necessary to massively invest in research to improve productivity. I'm going to put agree, because I like the idea of investing into research. But I'm not entirely sure about this. I'll put somewhat agree for that. Not for that, but you know what I mean. It is merit that explains differences of wealth between two individuals. It is merit that... Is this talking about what I believe, or what it actually is? Because if it's saying it is merit that explains the difference between wealth of two individuals, in our current society, it is merit. Not even. Hold on. When they say merit, what do they mean by merit? The quality of being particularly good or worthy. Oh, so no. Because there are a lot of crappy people who have shit tons of money, and a lot of great people who have no money. Energy and transport structures should be a public matter. Yeah, sure, public transportation, 100%. The values of my country are superior to those of other countries. I'm going to go no, but it's not because I believe that other countries are better than us. I mean, sometimes they are, but it's like, I don't believe in this super hyper nationalist thinking. Everybody has good, everybody has bad. If two countries have similar economies, social systems, environmental norms, then the free market between them has no negative impact. No. I wouldn't necessarily say that, because eventually at one point there's going to be one of those countries is just gonna start using the other one for push harder gain. Eventually one of them is just gonna start getting the upper hand on the other one. That's just how it is. Changing the system radically is counterproductive. We should transform it progressively. I'm in the middle of these three answers because I get sometimes this and sometimes this. It's very hard sometimes. Radically and progressively. If I say progressively, it might imply that I'm a bit more into the bit by bit status, but then if I do radically, it might imply that I'm a bit more of a revolutionary. But if I do neutral or hesitant, it might be like I'm fence sitting. This is hard. Or I don't know what I said. Maybe I flipped the ones of agree and disagree. Well, no, I didn't say that. What am I thinking of? Changing the system. I'm just gonna do neutral hesitant. I can't think of it, and we'll be here all day if I sit there trying to think about it. Minimal levels of salary should be ensured to make sure a worker can live off their work. Yes, 100%. Order and authority should be respected in all circumstance. No. That is just no. Armed struggle in a country is sometimes necessary. Now, again, this is where we're going to get into some difficult situations because, I don't know if I would define it as necessary, but there are some times where it's going to happen and you're going to see that they have, legitimate reasons for doing it. So I guess I'll put somewhat agree because, I get to a degree why some armed struggle might happen. A good policy is pragmatic policy without ideology. That's an interesting one. Because I don't know if this one is trying to, get on the idea of, working bipartisan. But the thing is, I really do mostly get to the point of, I believe all my things are pragmatic without ideology. But I also have ideology to back up my positions. So it's this might be just trying to be a centrist position. So I might put somewhat agree just because I believe that pragmatic policies are my policies. But, it could just be this is me falling into the trap. Oh well. We need to make compromises with the opposition to apply our ideas. I'm going to put mostly disagree. Not mostly. Rather disagree. Now this is going to be a difficult one. I don't know if I should do rather or absolutely. Because on one end, there are some things where it's maybe we can compromise. But then there are other things where it's we absolutely cannot compromise. I'm just going to do absolutely not. Because it's yeah, to a degree, a lot of the stuff I have is just non-negotiable. Workers having a living wage is non-negotiable. Workers having healthcare, non-negotiable. People being able, wage, non-negotiable. These are non-negotiable ideas, mostly. I can't really think of anything that is negotiable to me. Euthanasia should be authorized. Yep. I believe that. People shouldn't have the right to be euthanized if they want. But that's emphasis of if they want. There's going to be a bit of a, you can't euthanize someone else, but they can euthanize themselves. Changes in an individual's way of life can induce changes in society. Changes in an individual's way of life can induce changes in society. This is where it's getting too big brain for me. I might put some would agree. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is a necessity in order to be protected from terrorist acts. I'm going to still go with no. I understand to a degree why you would want to do things, but I'm going to say no. An individual's civil liberties are their civil liberties. I'm a civil libertarian till the day I die. All sciences, even chemistry and biology, are not uncompromised and are conditioning by our society. Now that's a good one. I don't necessarily think that. But it's also, to a degree, I guess it does make sense. Some things that we might think are pushed by our society. So I'm going to put rather disagree, but not absolutely. If it was me a couple years ago, I would have said absolutely disagree. But I'm thinking, yeah, it's all because of that damn sociology. Dismissals of employees should be forbidden except if it's justified. Duh. Of course dismissals of employees should be forbidden except for it's not justified. If you fire an employee, you have to have a legitimate reason. Like they're threatening your other employee's life. Or you can't afford to pay them. Nobody is by nature predisposed to criminality. Yeah. Like, it's mostly sociological reasons why people commit crimes. Like, even conservatives supposedly agree on this. Nowadays, employees are free to choose when signing a contract with their future employer. Yes and no. Because it's like, how far is that choice? Like, yes, technically they can choose in the same way that you can choose to not eat tonight. You can choose that, but do you want to choose that? So I'm going to put rather disagree. Banks should remain private. No. No, you know what? No. Nationalize everything! Okay, well, scratch that. Not nationalize everything. Nationalize everything except things that are important. Schools should mostly teach our values, traditions, and fundamental knowledge. I kind of go off of... No, not this. This, kind of. This, yes. Like, this is a hard yes. They teach this. They should teach this. Teaching this is a bit iffy. You know, you should teach a little bit of, like maybe teach some basics, but of everybody's culture and traditions. But this, and teach this in the sense of, like, what are your values? You have to give the most basic values to think of, and to some people, their values technically don't even fit with what their things are. Like, you see a lot of conservatives always complain, like, talk about, like, oh, kids, you need to learn to share your toys, but it's like, but you also hate communism. I'm going to put neutral because that's where things get a bit iffy. It's not acceptable that human actions should lead to the extinction of a species. Yeah, it's not acceptable of that. That stinks. We should stop that. Stop making animals go die. I'm equally concerned about the inhabitants of my country and those of the other countries. I am equally concerned about the inhabitants of my country and those of the other countries. So now, Now, yeah, that is very interesting because, I mean, I probably would have said no immediately right off the get-go, like, just because of, like, my mostly non-interventionist things. Then I saw a lot of Michael Brooks, who was a lot more of a socialist internationalist, and it kind of, like, properly introduced me to those kinds of ideas, and it's like, yeah, I get it. I guess at this point I might put somewhat agree because, like, I don't want people in France or Britain or any of these other countries to be hurt. I want them to live good lives like I do. Well, I want them to live better lives than I do, but that's beside the point. Selfishness is the overriding drive in the human species, no matter the context. Not necessarily, no. Like, I mean, to a degree, some humans are selfish. Like, if you, like, realistically, if you see someone, if someone's pointing a gun at you and a bunch of people, you're gonna run away first. You're not gonna try and help the other people get away first. You're gonna run first. But it's also like, but not necessarily. It doesn't mean that we have to accept that. We can accept that we're a little bit selfish, but also broadly want to fix that and try to better society. Activism in existing political organizations is not relevant to change society. Absolutely not. I believe it's completely relevant. People need to stand up for their ideals, even if it leads to them betraying their country. You see, if it was just this, I would be like, yeah, 100%. But then it's when you get to this, where it's something like, how far does this betrayal go? I want to put hesitant. If they didn't have that last part, then I'd be fine. The main goal of a couple, like, the only reason why is because, like, betraying your country implies, like, you're going to a foreign enemy and, like, being an enemy of, like, your homeland. And I'm not a nationalist, but, like, there's a degree of, like, that, like, betraying your country implies, like, literally, like, you want this country destroyed. The main goal of a couple is to make at least one child. No, the main point of a couple is to love each other. We should accept changes in our way of consuming food to limit the exploitation of nature. Yeah, we should, broadly. Like if there was a broader policy that said, like, we need to fix the way our food is consumed and try to not exploit nature as much, then that'd be fine. But then there's also, like, do we do it on an individual level? I don't know. Like, I can't do it on an individual level because I like meat too much. I'm sorry, vegans. I failed you. But yeah, in a broader sense, yeah, we should. Especially considering, yeah, it does screw with nature. It is acceptable that there are rich and poor people. I will put rather disagree. Like you hear it in my mind, going back, and I'm rethinking and thinking about this answer. It is acceptable that there are rich and poor people. Nah, you know what? I'm gonna stick with rather disagree. It shows that I fundamentally don't agree with that, but I do understand to a degree it will happen sometimes. Now, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna do absolutely disagree. Screw it. I want everyone to be having a living wage. Forgive me. National chauvinism during sports competitions is not acceptable. Yeah. They're sports people, they take it a lot too far. They literally go, like, they start beating each other up for, like, it's a stupid sports game, calm down. Members of a nation or culture have some unchangeable characteristics that define them. What does that imply? I'm gonna put hesitant because I don't know what that means. I mean, are they trying to say, like, something about their personality or something about, like, are they just talking about their appearance or what? Social assistance deters people from working. Nope. No. Just no. Citizens should take priority over foreigners. In what context? Do you mean literally just, like, the citizens of a nation should take place over people who live in foreign countries, or are you implying foreigners that live here? I'm hesitant on that one. In some specific conditions, the death penalty is justified. Nope. I've changed my mind. Nope. Just no. None. Like, I mean, the death penalty would have to be massively reformed in order to change my mind. Have you seen the John Oliver video where he talks about the death penalty? It is absolutely torture. And this isn't even including the fact that a lot of times we get the wrong person. And we kill them we kill them. It's just terrible. Marriage should be abolished. Nah. This is It really doesn't matter. Like, I mean, I don't care if... Like, I mean, yeah, I guess I'll put rather disagree and not absolutely disagree, because it's just, like, absolutely disagree implies I'm, like, a super fundamentalist, but it's, like, I really don't care. So what if people get married or choose to live together and call it marriage? So what? The social roles of women and men can partly be explained by biological differences. I'm going to put absolutely disagree because it's mostly sociological. No one should get rich from owning a business, housing, or land. The labor market enslaves workers. Yeah. The categories of women and men are social constructs that should be given up. If it ended here, I could have did this. But since it says this, I don't know. I'll have to go with hesitant on this one. The age of retirement should be lowered? Absolutely. Like, the age of, like, your social security, to a degree, is, like, getting to a point where it's, like, it's getting crazy. Maybe. It is better to arrest someone potentially dangerous preemptively? No, preemptive. They have to have committed a crime for them to have done it. Because when you do that, you're just getting racial profiling. Sexual assaults are partially because of men's natural impulse. I'm gonna go with... If I put this, that implies something, I don't want to say it. So I'm gonna put this. There are a lot of men in the world who don't rape women. It's clear that the impulse is in them. I've never gotten the impulse to do something like that. If other men have done it, if other men have gotten that impulse and have chosen not to do it, they can say it. But I've never gotten that impulse. Hormonal differences can explain some differences in individual characteristics between men and women. I guess. Foreigners living in my country should be allowed to act politically equally to those who have the nationality. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Like if an immigrant wants to advocate for a candidate of their choice, then yeah, absolutely. No, you know what? Yeah, I'll just go absolutely. It is necessary to implement assemblies to ration our production to the consumers according to their needs. I see what they did there. From each according to their ability to each according to their needs. I think this is what it's talking about. I think it is. So I'm gonna say yes. Research produced in my country should not be available to other countries. Absolutely not. What are you talking about? Transhumanism will be beneficial because it will allow us to improve our capacities. Now, for those who don't know what transhumanism is basically where, like, a bunch of, like, I guess libertarian tech bro types basically decided, like, we're gonna make humans be like robots. But to a degree, I do kind of see the benefit in it, but I also don't see 100% the benefit in it. I like techno-progressivism, but I don't like transhumanism. I mean, I like it a little bit, but then some people take it a bit too far. Like, there's this one guy who literally, like, cloned his liver or something and then ate it on camera, and he ran for president one time. This is truth. This is a fact. Someone put neutral hesitant. Mass strike is a good way to acquire new rights. Yeah. Homosexuals should not be treated equally to heterosexuals. Nope. They should be treated with the absolute equality. Space colonization is a good solution for supplying the lack of raw material on Earth. No. You see, what would have been a good solution would have been to properly ration those resources so we could have them for a long period of time. But, you know, I mean, to a degree, I get what they're trying to say, but it's also like, at this point, no. The state should be abolished. No. The state shouldn't be abolished. I'm sorry to all you super, like, anarchists, but the state shouldn't be abolished. It is necessary to remove regulations in labor legislation to encourage firms to hire. No. Regulate labor. More regulations, not less. Biologically, human beings are designed for heterosexuality. Obviously not, because if they were, why would gay people exist? No, you know what? I have to put somewhat agree, because it's like, you know what? The you know what goes in the you know what. But it's like, of course, if gay people and bi people and ace people exist, abortion should be limited to specific cases. Nah. We should always distance ourselves from protesters who use violence. Kind of, but not really. There's some protesters who are going to use violence, and that's just a natural thing. You just gotta show who you are. It is unfair to set a minimal penalty for an offense or a crime. Ooh. I'm gonna put neutral or hesitant because I'm unsure. Sexual orientation is a social construct. Yeah, kind of. The purpose of the judiciary system should be to punish those who went against the law. Not necessarily. It should be for fixing them. It should be for trying to help the people who screwed up. Like trying to rehabilitate them. Technological progress must not change society too quickly. No, they should change society. No, you know what? I'll put rather. Because it's like, yeah, I guess too quickly would be too drastic. But it's like, we do need to accept technological progress. State-run companies should be managed by private ones and follow the logic of the market. State-run companies should be managed like private ones. No, they should be run like statewide ones. Offshoring and outsourcing are necessary evils to improve production. Nope. Screw that. Screw that. No. Humans should neither eat nor exploit animals. If it was just this, I could say some would agree. But it said this. So I have to do that. It's in our nature. Humans are supposed to eat animals. But we can do it to a degree where it doesn't reach too much exploitation. I'm sorry. I like chicken. I like meat. Differences in treatment and quality of life in our society show that racism is still omnipresent. Yeah, absolutely. Justice should always take into consideration the context and the past of the condemned and adapt their penalty accordingly. Now that's actually a very interesting proposal. I didn't think of it that way. Like, if a rich person commits a crime, they should be like, why did you commit this crime? You've lived a life of luxury for your entire life, and yet now you're going to commit a crime? But then you get some poor homeless man who commits a similar crime, and it's like, yeah, we can understand why you did this. So maybe you would adapt their penalty accordingly. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a bad idea, actually. If you see someone who's depressed, you might, their penalty might not instead be, just jail time. Instead, their penalty might be, you get, a certain amount of jail time, but also you have to go to, a depression clinic. That's actually not that bad of an idea. The right to be anonymous on the internet should be guaranteed. Yeah. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Yeah. We must fight against global warming. Yep. Heavy penalties are efficient because they are dissuasive. Obviously not. GMOs should be forbidden outside of research and medicinal purposes. I'm going to put rather disagree because, again, to a degree, I do understand why some GMOs are good, or at least why they're not as bad as people are saying. But, of course, there needs to be a lot of limits and regulations and stuff. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption and not from authority. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption, not from an authority. Environmental norms should not be influenced by mass consumption and from an authority. I'm going to do, no. I'm saying yes to the one that I was thinking of reversing the question as the test told me to do. An authority should regulate this. No, wait. They should not be influenced by that. They should be influenced by an authority. We need stricter environmental regulations. Individuals who get out of prison should be insisted in their reinsertion. Absolutely. The police should be armed. Now, this might have to get into, like, a very interesting question about, like, our policing and stuff. And I might have to go a bit more in depth in it. But basically, how I view the police is that there should be two levels of them. The not as armed ones, and then the heavily armed ones. Like, the SWAT teams. The SWAT teams should literally be like your last resort for police. The ones that of course, like, everybody's like, we send the SWAT team to go, like, deal with, like, the cult leaders trying to mass execute dogs or something. But then there's, like, the normal run-of-the-mill police should probably, like, have, like, at most, like, a baton, or maybe, like, a can of pepper spray, or maybe just a taser. But, like, they shouldn't have, like, I'm gonna put somewhat agree, yeah. The normal police officer should not really have a gun, or if they do, they should have, like, not, like, a very limited capacity of the guns. Nuclear fission, when well attained, is a good source of energy. Well, yes, but I'm gonna still put absolutely disagree, because it's like, who cares if it does well, because it's like, once you screw up big with nuclear fission. Maintaining strong economic growth should be the objective from government. But it's like, at what cost? At what cost do you have the growth? Wage labor is a form of theft from the workers by companies. Kind of. I kind of understand this question now, so it's like, kind of. And now you might say, why don't you go fully agree? It's like, there's to a degree an understanding of them getting money. The thing is, they should have more money for their time. Social differences between ethnic groups cannot be explained by biology. Yeah. It is necessary to avoid a private monopoly. Yep. Activists must always act in strict ordinance within the law. I wouldn't say strict ordinance with the law, because it's like, at what point is strict ordinance too much? Like, what if the strict ordinance is no protests? So I'll put rather disagree. Loans contracted by the public sector, states, regions, communities, do not necessarily have to be repaid. Contracted by public sectors, states, regions, communities, do not necessarily have to be repaid. I'm going to do neutral hesitant because it's like, that's a little confusing and above my pay grade, I think. It is important to encourage an agriculture that maintains a food biodiversity, even if its output is inferior. Yeah, I guess so. Elections organized by the state cannot question the powers in place. Not necessarily, no. I mean, we've seen elections that have massively changed how a country plays out, for better and for worse. Like, society put the elections that made Hitler chancellor, but society's also made the, like, elections that put Lula in power and AMLO. So yeah, they can question the powers in place. Looking for one's own profit is healthy for the economy. I'm going to put somewhat disagree on this. Exploitations of fossil fuels is necessary. No, not really. There's, to a degree, I guess, where you would understand why you would want that, but it's like, My religion must be spread as widely as possible. That's a very interesting question, considering, I don't have one. But if I did have one, I would still say no. Look, and I'm not going to enforce, like, state atheism or anything like that. I believe that, everybody should have the right to do whatever the heck they want. The fact that some schools and universities are private is not a problem. This is where things are going to get interesting. Because it's like, yeah. No, wait. Yeah. I do not have a problem if other official languages are added or replace the already existing official language of my country. Yeah, who cares? If in 10 years a lot more people speak Spanish, then what's the point of having the official language be English? Now, the official language of America isn't English, I don't think. We don't have an official language, but you get my understanding. At some point, the official language might change, so it should be adapted when things come. I mean, actually, at this point, they shouldn't have official languages at all. Reduction of waste should be done by reducing production. Yeah, that's a good way to start. Market economy is optimal when it is not regulated. No, it should be regulated. Revenues and capital should be taxed to redistribute wealth. Yeah. It is necessary to teach history in order to create a sense of belonging to the nation. No, it's not necessarily that. That's not necessarily the reason why we should teach history. It's the same stupid mantra that everybody says. Those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. We don't teach history to have people like we teach history so that people have a broader understanding of what our country is, both the good and bad, and that's the truth. I guess to a degree, but it's like, I only say agree because I want to teach history, but that's not why we should teach history. We should teach history because we need to know the history of our nation, again, both the good and the bad. Sabotage is legitimate under certain circumstances. I'm going to put neutral hesitant. Foreigners enrich our culture. Yes. It is legitimate for a country to intervene militarily to defend its economic interests. Nope. Preserving non-urban ecosystems is more important than creating jobs. Yes. A good citizen is a patriot. Not necessarily. Especially considering, what do you identify as a patriot? Like a patriot, technically I would consider myself a patriot because it's like, I'm heavily involved in the US political scene. I'm very adept in history. But other people wouldn't call me a patriot because some of my viewpoints on those things indicate some bad things the US has done and is currently doing. I believe that every progressive who crap talks America, to a degree, is a patriot. Because they're being involved in the US political scene. Even if it comes to a point where you don't necessarily agree with all the things that they do. That's the point. You're supposed to disagree. That's technically what the founders wanted. They wanted people to disagree sometimes. They disagreed with each other. That was the point. The filing and storage of personal records should be delimited strictly, and database cross-checking should be forbidden. I guess transgender individuals will never be the gender they would like to be. Nope. Trans women are women, trans men are men, trans people are trans people. Trans people are people, is what I should have said. Dang it. But yes, they will be the gender that they like to be. Because they are what they are. I'm trying to reread this so I know I'm not clicking the wrong one. This would be, yes, agree. My country must pay for the damages caused by the crimes committed to other countries. Yeah, sure. We should pay for the crimes that we've committed. U.S. has done bad things. We should try and fix them. Either through, actual money or actually going there to try and fix them. I don't mean, militarily. I mean, helping Bolivia out after we tried to, kick out after Morales. Some sectors or type of employments should be financially supported. Shouldn't all types of employment be financially supported? I assume this means by tax dollars, so I'm going to put agree, I guess. Insurrection is necessary to deeply change society. No. Abstinence should be preferred to contraceptive. Nope. It is important that the health should stay a public matter. Yeah. It is acceptable that some industry sectors are private. I guess technically, but I'm going to do this because I'm a lefty. Hacking is a legitimate place in a political structure. Kind of. And violence against individuals is never productive. I'm going to go with absolutely agree and then close my eyes as I click. All right. And I got, equality, humanity, socialism. I think this is the same 3 words that I got from the last one, but let's take a look at my axes. Constructivism 60%, 26% in the middle, and essentialism 14%. How do they define this again? Rehabilitative justice 79%, 16% in the middle, punitive justice whatever's left. Progressive 79%, 16% in the middle, and whatever the heck is left for conservative. 55% internationalist, 35% nationalist, and 10% nationalist. No, I said 30% nationalist. That's stupid. 81% communist, 19% in the middle, and no capitalism. I have conservative, but not capitalism. Regulation 81%, laissez-faire nothing with 19% in the middle. Ecology 60, 30, and then 10 production. Revolution 33, in the middle 29, and 38 reform. Now, what does this mean? My additional characteristics are pragmatist. Politics objectively boils down to looking at where the problems are and trying to solve them according to the means available. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah. This is my Politiscales test. I kind of like the flag. I mean, it's got that hammer and sickle, but it also has the Nordic model flag. So I legitimately think. Well, let me check. I think this is literally what I got in the last test. And, no. Oh, wait, now I think I remember. I think I remember. I got it when I think I got these when I first took the test. No? Maybe I did get this and I didn't read it properly. Humanity, justice, socialism. Equality, humanity, socialism. So no, I didn't get that. I guess that literally just means that I just went further left. Dang it, I should have actually read the freaking numbers. But I didn't, so yeah, this is the flag of me now. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles on the Independent Political Report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.